Slamdown is sponsored by BODYSLAM and Jam, and Impact Fan Nation, and Zombie Generation. Welcome to a very special edition of Slamdown. Today we are joined by the host of King of the Mountain podcast. How you doing?
I am great. I'm happy to be talking Slammiversary with you guys and excited to get started.
And we're also joined by my co-host Charles. How you doing, bud?
Doing well this morning. It's good to be on the podcast with DQ from the King of the Mountain. I listen to this podcast, enjoy it a lot. Like you said, I have to be here to talk about Slammiversary today.
And what a Slammiversary it was as well. You know, even there was a few matches that I thought were going to be kind of boring, but it blew my expectations. You know, the whole dynamic of the pay-per-view, it gave me the old vibe of the old TNA before we had Hogan and Bischoff came in. And I'm so impressed with the amount of improvements that's been done since Jeff Jarrett has come in.
You said it was
a doubt. Go ahead, BK.
No, actually, it actually cut out a little bit. You were saying this is the best product since Jarrett has come back in.
Yeah, you know, the improvements he's done has been phenomenal, and it's exciting to be an Impact fan again.
It is, you know, and when he first came on with the company, when he came back, I was actually in the house. I was there live for that first episode in the Impact Zone, and that, you know, I guess I had a different experience because I was there, but I know the way it came up on TV was not good for a lot of people, and I think very many people were confused and they were concerned with the direction of the company. They've bounced back pretty well since then, you know, because you remember that first episode, there was a lot of WWE name dropping. The current Impact stars were jobbing to the new guys fairly quickly, and now it's starting to all balance itself out. So it's, you know, from then to now, it's a really big difference.
Oh yeah, definitely, and that's what I've liked. They took their time with it. They haven't just come in and ripped everything up and gone, right, we're doing this. They're doing it gradually. They finished off some storylines that they weren't enjoying, but they finished them off. They saw it to the end, and then they started doing their new era, and with all the new angles coming up, and you know, the stuff we've got now, which is one thing that I really did like.
Yeah, there's just a lot of good things going on right now, and I'm really excited to see where they are from at the end of the year.
Oh yeah, definitely. And also with Jarrett, when he's the one that originally ran the company, so a lot of the old stuff that we used to love, I can see him bringing that back in time. You know, we've already had the announcement about the Super X Cup coming back, and you know, and all these partnerships that he's aligned with Impact now, that we're starting to see some of them stars come in, and it is in a very exciting time.
And I think what's really exciting is that him and Dutch really they really listen to the fans.
Yeah.
And if you look at you know, the social media of the WWE fans, they're constantly telling the company, this is what we want, this is what we want to see, and the company's telling them, no, we know what you want to see, we know what's good for you. We're gonna do what we want to do. You're either gonna like it or you don't like it, and it's good to stick by your laurels sometimes when it comes to that stuff. But fortunately, now with the company with Jarrett, they are listening because they know that maybe fans aren't the experts in wrestling that they claim to be, but there is a certain product they want to see on the TV. I mean, they are the ones tuning in, so you do have to be in tune and keep your ear to the streets when it comes to that. Some fans want to see, you know, better knockout matches. They want to see better X Division matches, you know, and the way it seems so far is that the company is listening.
I totally agree with you, and you know, one thing I will say is, especially when it came to Slammiversary, I enjoyed the pre-show more of Slammiversary than any pre-show that WWE's done. And it was quite a short as well pre-show. It didn't drag on. You know, they talked about the matches, and then we saw KM, Kong Lo Kong, Laura Van Ness taking on Braxton Sutter, Muhammad Ali Shearer, and Ali. And with this, I'm hoping that Sutter and Shearer become a tag team, and he stays away from the X Division. I don't believe Sutter should be in the X Division, in my opinion.
I'm personally a huge Braxton Sutter fan. He's actually my favorite wrestler. So I usually like very obscure wrestlers. I'm never, you know, the hugest fans of guys at the top. But I think he was a fill-in for the X Division for a while because they really didn't have the bodies. And it depends how you want to look at the X Division. You either say, okay, the X Division is this high-flying style, or the X Division is a cruiserweight, lightweight division, you know, based off your size and stature. So, you know, if that's the case, then, you know, maybe he does qualify for the division. But I think he has a lot more charisma than people give him credit for. And I think he's better served in storylines than, you know, some of these X guys that just pop up for the match. You know, I think there's a lot more potential with the guy. This opening match had a lot of, it was one of the slept on, underrated matches of the card because it was the pre-show, but the entire match had a sense of purpose. You know, they weren't rushing it, but there was a sense of purpose. They didn't waste any time in this match. It was just action, action, action without overdoing it. So, you know, from a psychology standpoint, the way it was laid out, the energy of the crowd, the energy of the wrestlers, you know, I actually thought it was one of the better matches.
Yeah, it was a good match, but the problem for me is I think we've overseen this rivalry, and it's another problem I've said about before, where I think they need more pay-per-views. Because there is so long till a pay-per-view, it feels like sometimes things are dragging a little bit.
You're right, and I'm gonna put you on to a rumor that I heard, and I haven't even said this on my own podcast yet, but this came from someone on Twitter I was talking to, Mr. Pay-Per-View 05. This is kind of a third-party thing that was overheard from Jeremy Borash in the Impact Zone, so you got to take it with a grain of salt. But it sounds like they're trying to work towards 6 pay-per-views a year, one every other month, and so that basically the pay-per-view coincides with a set of tapings. So each set of tapings is the build to a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
So, you know, things get lost in translation all the time, but, you know, that's what someone had overheard Jeremy Borash talking about in the Impact Zone. You know, again, it's third information, fourth-hand information, whatever, but, you know, it's something that makes sense.
Oh yeah, definitely, and I think going that way is probably better because then through the other months you can have. I don't want to call them one night onlys because I don't believe that's what they should do. They should have like specialist pay-per-views, like they could do a all-women's pay-per-view and stuff like that. So it still counts as a slight story, but it's more of like similar to the one night onlys.
Yeah, I think Ed Nordholm was saying that next year in 2018, the one night onlys are going to be more important. You know, they're not just going to be throwaway shows that they put together. So it would be nice if they're able to do, you know, 6 major pay-per-views and 6 one night onlys, you know, to fill the gaps because they have to do something every month. Then I think it works. But right now the one night only, I don't even know what you want to call it. The method of doing those 10 months out of the year is just it's not working. And I can't imagine the buys here in the United States are very good for them. I always get them. I enjoy them, but they're not the best shows in the world.
That's right. I'm in the UK. We get them for free anyway. We don't need to worry about that. But like I was saying, I think it was a good pre-show. I think everything was done well. I liked that we saw the owl fly down as well.
Yeah, that was really nice. This whole pre-show and the packages, the video packages, those should have been the way the Impact shows have been built all this time. They had all these great video packages, but they were not really showing them on the shows.
Yeah. Everything felt good all the way from the start of this. You know, it's. I do try and pick faults, but it's like I really can't pick faults in everything they've done on this. The way, like the videos packages, the layouts, and you did get that bit of nostalgia as well with Don West being at commentary. Even though I don't think he's the best person at commentary, but you had that funness with him, and it reminded you of the old times.
It was nice to hear. Go ahead.
He was very energetic. You know, like DQ was about to say, it was nice to hear it because that was a form of energy. You know how Don was commentating. He likes to yell. He likes the energy. He likes to keep you alive, keep you in it. And it was really nice to hear him do so. To be back in there, I wouldn't mind Don was being but I'm not really upset with that. But yeah, it was definitely a breath of fresh air, something different. A good way to disguise it, and with the view because you never know. You never know. It could be one of those tested things. What they want to do going on.
I think it was refreshing to hear the matches called for what they were for a while. There was no. I didn't hate the JB Josh dynamic as much as most people seem to, but there was times it was overboard. It was too much. It was taken away from the matches. The very last episode in India, I thought they did very well. I thought there was dare I say, kind of a Gorilla Monsoon Bobby Heenan dynamic. I'm not comparing them to them, but they didn't bicker a whole lot, and it was more JB calling the action and Josh just saying these ridiculous. I've got 1.5 million followers on Twitter, and just saying ridiculous stuff like Heenan used to say back in the day. So I thought there was a really nice dynamic that they finally ended up achieving. But as nice as it was to hear wrestling called for wrestling, I did kind of miss those guys in the booth a little bit.
Oh yeah, I believe, and I've said this before, I'm hoping Josh Matthews goes more into a manager role, and we have the Pope and JB calling the commentary, because I believe Josh has got more to give, and I think putting him in a manager role, they can do more with him.
Yeah, I think when they were doing that, it was like a 4-on-4 match with Josh's team against JB's team. I think we all thought when he popped out that he was Lashley's manager, and I think everyone was really excited about that, and then he just got back in the booth, and we just got the same old stuff. But he could do a good job, yeah.
Oh, yeah. But kicking off the show, wow. I'm not going to say this was my favourite match. It's my second favourite, and which I'll explain later on, was the LAX taking on Laredo Kid, Garza Jr., Drago, and is it Phantasma?
Yeah.
Oh God!
Hijo de Phantasma.
Why do they have to give these people complicated names? The two guys from Noah. I'm just going to say that. In a 4-way Lucha Rules match, which we haven't really seen a Lucha Rules match in the Impact Zone that I can remember.
No, not at all. I was actually really confused watching the match at first, trying to understand what the rules were, and I wasn't really familiar with them. I used to watch very old school lucha libre as a kid,
Mm.
but I didn't really understand. I know back then I didn't really get it because I was very young, 37 now. So I mean, I was before my teen years, and I guess thinking back now, yeah, they just rolled out of the ring. But it took me a while to understand what was going on here. But it actually added a really nice dynamic because I hate when you have multi-team tag matches and you have the gimmick tags in the corner, like someone backs up too far and then the other uh, someone tags them from the outside and slaps them on the back, and I think all that is like really stupid. I always felt that multi-man tag matches should have had a representative from each team in the match, and they tag out to their partners. But the whole like, I thought it was gonna be 4 teams with 2 guys in the ring the whole time, and then they had to tag, people who were not even part of their team, and I always think that's so dumb. So this was really nice to just the in and out. I hope we see more of it.
Oh yeah, it was the difference as well. And the match was was always going. There was no sluggish or slow parts to this match. Every moment I was like, oh my god, they've done this, they've done it. It just blew my mind. And
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
It was great from top to bottom. I thought the first maybe 40 seconds of the match was a little slow when they're doing the chops and everything, but once I got past that, it never stopped.
It's like I'm hoping that's... Go on, Charles.
One of the things I liked about most is they had a representative from each of the the major partnering organizations. One from Noah, one from Crash, which we already had there with Garza and Laredo, and one from Noah AAA, Crash, and Impact and GFW. I thought that was really cool. And then they announced they had all the head honchos from each promotion. In that, I thought that was a real good touch. Real nice to see the togetherness. That of course is global sports wrestling, how everyone is coming to make this a grand global company. That was really nice and fresh.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's and for people that don't know, the Drago and Phantasma teaming up together is a first. Because in Lucha Underground they had a solid rivalry and they've never tagged before. So even business sense, having these two team up is going to pull Lucha Underground fans to watch Slammiversary because this has never been done for, and I think that was really clever by Impact Wrestling to do that.
It is. I hope they start doing it. I hope they. That was like you said, it's their first time tagging, but overall, I just hope they start doing this for all the major pay-per-views. I think the multi-man tag match is a good way of factoring in the other talents because they're not there for you to do a build with, when it comes to individual feuds. So I hope they continue to do this.
Oh yeah, definitely, and it's I want to see more from Drago. I want to see more from all the competitors in this match. So I'm hoping none of the companies put limitations to people's appearances in the Impact Zone. I'm hoping we see more of these guys. This match just had me completely hyped all the way through. But we sort of knew LAX was going to win this. We knew it wasn't going to be anybody else, But even still, the quality of the match was amazing, and they're going to have a hard time topping that match.
It's okay to be predictable in wrestling when the outcome makes sense, and there's a way to be predictable and effective, not predictable like you sit through a Monday Night Raw and you know every single step of the way what's going to happen for 3 hours. Like that's boring predictable. But like with someone like this, you kind of know the outcome, but you don't know what's going to happen in the match. And I'm not going to keep hammering on WWE. I kind of tend to do that a lot. But I haven't watched a product in about a year and a half. But when I used to watch, I used to say, God, the same moves are used every single match. Like it's you watch 2 guys wrestle one week, and then you watch them have a rematch the next week, and it's the same gimmick matches because they do when I say gimmick, I don't mean a stipulation, but I just mean they're just drawn out the same way, they're laid out the same way. It's this, a lot of the wrestlers have their set of 5 or 6, 7 moves that they use every single match, and when you see those moves every match, that's boring. So it's okay to say, okay, these are the teams, this is what I know the outcome is going to be, but what are they going to fill the middle up with that I'm not expecting, that I haven't seen before? And that's when predictable is okay, because if you can do the storytelling in the middle without delivering what we see every single week, then it works. And there was, we knew LAX was going to win because there's no way they could have continued the storylines with these other teams.
Oh, yeah, definitely. But like I said, just a phenomenal match.
Agreed, completely agreed. And it's nice because you brought a bunch of teams except for Stars and Red Kid. We've seen them before.
Mm-hmm.
Come on.
And even like you say, Laredo Kid's got a lot of potential as well.
He does. I was a little concerned his first night in Impact.
Drop out, come back in, guys. Connection.
But like the point was just like, he has got a lot of potential, and a lot of those guys have got still a lot more to give, and that's what makes it even more exciting.
Right. I mean, the focus has been on LAX. It had been on Decay for quite a while before that, and now we have, Laredo Kid and Garza. We have a lot to see from Reno Scum soon.
Yeah.
Trying to think what some of the other teams are. I don't know the future of Idris Abraham and Hakeem Zayn. I was talking to Hakeem Zayn last night in DMs, and he's not a part of the roster, but they're pushing for him to be a part of the roster. So hopefully that's going to be a tag team going forward. He said he was supposed to be at the tapings this week, but they logistically couldn't do it. So it seems like he's going to be part of the roster moving forward. And he had a really good match on one night only, the two of them against Laredo Kid and Garza. So there's a lot more to happen. BOW, we'll see what they can do here going forward. But tag division looks very exciting.
Oh yeah, definitely. The only division that I think needs improving is probably the women's division, but that's probably the only it for me, to be honest.
Yeah, I think they just didn't put the focus on there right away. I think they had different priorities, and I think we're going to see the focus on the division here very soon.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's like I said, everything's exciting at the minute, and everything keeps you hooked. And talk about exciting! Wow, Williams' performance in the tag team match with Moose against Eli Drake and Chris Adonis. This guy was training for 3 days, and his performance blew me for 3 days of training.
Yeah, he's obviously someone as a fan who understands the psychology of wrestling, and you can tell he watches from home and he understands what a good performance looks like and what a bad performance looks like. He's very gifted athletically, which is going to help you quite a bit when it comes to training, obviously. But he was great. He was a lot of fun. I think people are so focused on him. I think they didn't realize what a great job Moose did in this match. But it was great. I think the placement of putting a second after that tag match was very smart. And they're still talking about it. Here it's 10 a.m. in the U.S. right now. They're still talking about it. It's still on sports channels. It's still on sports websites. And that's when you put on a good performance, whether it's a match or a pay-per-view, and people are still talking about it days later.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I always, people said, back when they did the final deletion and the WWE did the Wyatt compound match, and so, that was done better. I'm like, but what are people talking about the next week?
Yeah.
And that's just in general, when you got matches and cards that people are still talking about a few days later, instead of, okay, that was fun, what's next? This one, people are still talking about it. That's can only mean good things. I think that the crappy thing is that they went through this whole Global Force uh, rebrand after the pay per view. So, they're saying D'Angelo Williams appeared on Impact Wrestling's pay per view, and now all of a sudden Impact Wrestling is not the name of the company. And I think that kind of hurts from a PR standpoint. And, people are going to get on Google, and, it's just going to be a lot of confusion.
Oh, yeah, definitely. But the hype around him as well. And I was actually quite sad to hear that that was his only time in wrestling, that he's retiring for the moment. But I believe that's due to he wants to find a team to play for in the NFL first, and then maybe he'll come back to wrestling. But Impact needs to keep a close eye on him, because when he does retire from NFL is when Impact need to sign him up, get him trained, and get him back in that ring. Because I'm going to say it, people are going to hate me for it. He puts a better performance than any performance that Roman Reigns does.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be back anytime soon. He was doing an interview and he had said that the company wanted him to come back, but he declined. He said he had no interest in doing anything further. So I kind of wish that news didn't really come out, because it made to me, reading the article made the company look a little thirsty, where they're just like, okay, what else can we get you to do? And it wouldn't have been as special to just bring him back, on the following episode of Impact and have him do a match as well. You got to preserve these kind of things. And I guess he did the match for free, because he did it not because the company wanted him to, but because he was fulfilling a promise to his late uncle that he would be in a wrestling ring one day. And I think that was more his focus than anything. He wasn't really concerned about what was in it for him. So I thought that was cool. But I still never think it's good news when anything comes out of Impact not paying someone, regardless of the reason.
Oh yeah, at least we know it wasn't that he didn't get paid, or there was him being paid late, that he actually didn't want to take a paycheck, which I kind of like that as well, especially with the performance he put in. I know there was one blotch where he overshot the frog splash and nearly broke his neck, but still, everything else was done perfectly. He was a bit excitable, but it was his first match in the ring, so to me,
yeah, he just
go on.
No, I was just gonna say he just jumped too quickly when he got to the top rope. He didn't survey the land, so to speak. That's why the wrestlers, when they climb to the top, they pause for a second and gather themselves, and he didn't do that. He just climbed to the top and jumped.
But then it was his first match and only been training for 3 days, and to be at the level he was at was amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Yep, a lot of fun. Any celebrities that come on in the future have a lot to live up to now.
Oh, yeah. That was probably the better of a celebrity being in a ring. Thinking back, I don't think there's been one like that with being able to perform that well, because normally it's the wrestlers that are carrying the celebrity.
Exactly. And celebrities usually do such a poor job in these matches, and he just completely changed that. And like I said, he was so good that people didn't see what Moose was doing. Moose did some really, really great things also. And even Eli Drake and Adonis were very impressive in this match. They played their roles very well. Eli Drake had that slip off the top rope, and that was unfortunate. But, those things happen. And he's so good that he pretended he did it on purpose, and he embraced the "you fucked up" chants. It was a lot of fun. Great match.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And now I'm going to admit this was my favourite match of the show, because I was expecting this match to be the weakest, but for me it was the best, which was the Josh Matthews, Big Papa Pump Scott Steiner versus Jeremy Borash and Joseph Park. I was expecting this to be a bit of a boring match, but it blew me away, and it was even more proof that the whole Hardy stuff was more down to Borash with the way it was shot, the way it was done. Yes, Matt might have created the character, but it was Borash that did Final Deletion and the way he organised it all.
It was very obvious that was the case, and I didn't hear anybody saying anything. You know, Hardy was very quiet during all this, so it makes me feel like, you know what, if you guys want the gimmick over there, take it. You know, I don't think people realize how ruined it's going to be over there. Just because there's a bigger budget, and that does not mean it's going to be better. It's going to be overexposed. It's not the brilliance. Good choice of words there. The brilliance of the Hardy thing was the off-camera stuff. I mean, not the off-camera, the behind-the-scenes stuff, the out of the arena stuff. It wasn't the in-ring product, because every time they got in the ring, it took away from the gimmick just a little bit more. It's kind of chipping away at it because the magic was not in the ring. And I can't see them not getting overexposed in the ring on Raw. And you know, I just don't think the gimmick's going to do well over there. I think this proved that Jeremy Borash was the guy behind the creative side of it. Were they sitting down together and talking about, let's try this and this? Yeah, absolutely. But, you know, Borash was actually obviously the guy behind it. And I was saying on my show, I don't know how anybody didn't see this coming. I don't know how, you know, when we knew this match was going to happen, and on paper it looked like such a train wreck, I didn't see one person say, well, what if they do like a Final Deletion style match? I don't think anyone expected it. No. And it's funny because then you look back at it and you're like, how did we not expect it? And I guess the way they protected it was they didn't throw in the new DQ, the no DQ gimmick until right before the match. Because I think if they had given it away, you know, in the past, a week or two ago, then people would have started putting the dots together.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's like I said, the way everything was done on that was brilliant. You know, when, you know, seeing Big Papa Pump saying, does it make my teeth look whiter, was just absolutely hysterical. And I think it was probably the first time we've actually seen Steiner cut some good promos. I don't know if that because it wasn't including math, but you know.
Yeah, it would have been nice to hear Steiner on the show, though. You know, some of the shows leading up to the pay-per-view, but the match was great. I've already watched it a few times.
Yeah, I think with Steiner, I'm just hoping this is just a one-off appearance because he is a lot older now and he's not in shape. So I'm really hoping that that's the last we see of Steiner. But it was nice to see him, if you know what I mean, on Slammiversary.
Yeah, it was a one-off. He said there's been no talks about anything further.
No, and I liked it as well that they still had one of the guys that was in the Final Deletion, the bloke in the car. I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah, that was brilliant. But he was also the pizza man in the KM segment. So I know the guy from when I've been at the tapings. So I think they need to use different extras instead of having the same person pop on TV all the time. But I actually didn't even realize he was a guy from the Final Deletion because I'd seen him in so many other angles leading up to it. It didn't dawn on me. Everyone else had said it, but I didn't realize. I didn't catch it.
And again, that's the clever thing, the way they've done about it, because they made him a little bit different. They didn't use him in the same sort of truck or anything like that. But you know, the comedy between Josh Matthews and Scott Steiner was done well. And the thing that got me really excited, we saw James Mitchell back. And I'm really hoping that he's back full time and he's going to be the manager of Abyss, because it'd be nice to see that old monster character come back.
It would. I know Abyss is a agent, and I think he's going to be, since they released a few agents, I think he's going to be playing a bigger role backstage. I don't personally expect to see him on the Impact TV show very much moving forward. I know a lot of people say the same thing you just said. That's just my personal opinion, though. I don't expect to see him much going forward. And unless James Mitchell's with him, that gimmick is just really it's not working anymore. Let me not say it's not working, but it's not what it used to be. You know, it's been diluted, and you know that was the great thing about him with Decay was that it was a rebirth. So I don't see going back to the Abyss character doing a whole lot for the company unless they have James Mitchell with him. But my assumption is that he's going to do more backstage work here on out. I think with the tag division.
See, I believe that there's going to probably be a new stable with James Mitchell, Abyss, and maybe even Rosemary coming back to the fold, and some other guys. You know, because Rosemary has teased something as well, so I think that is a possibility in the way it could go.
It's possible, but I don't think Rosemary needs anybody at this point.
True.
Unless she's trying to get revenge on LAX, that's different. But
I think they need to go that way. I think, you know, if you think about it, you've got one big stable with LAX running right over everything. So it would be nice to have another team that can actually take LAX down.
Yeah, and it's probably gonna have to come down to that eventually. You know, some kind of stable because their LAX is such a big group. It's going to be hard to defeat them if you're just a regular tag team.
Oh, we definitely. We'll just have to wait and see what they're going to do on that. But even seeing Shark Boy coming back as well and biting biting Josh Matthews on the backside was brilliant as well. You know, it's one thing I say is you've got to do the comedy well. You know, sometimes when you mix wrestling and comedy, it's got to be organised well, because we have seen it done and be terrible.
I mean, it was funny, it was comedy, but it wasn't comedy like Hornswoggle going under the referee's legs comedy. You know, like it wasn't silly. An element of the match that I think people really overlook and underappreciate is that Josh Matthews went into this match, or he was carrying himself in this match very confidently like a competitor. He didn't go in like a coward heel or acting like an announcer. And even JB to an extent, he didn't go in there like a coward. You know, there was actual heat between him and Josh, and I think that's a dynamic that people really overlook. That's really really impressive. That, you know, they didn't make it. It was funny because it was done so well, but it wasn't funny because they were trying to be funny.
Totally agree with you on that point. Totally agree. And, you know, we knew at the end it was going to be JB and Abyss getting the victory. But the way, like I said, the way it was done, where we saw James Mitchell come out and then Abyss behind him, we saw the thumbtacks. We even saw JB going to the top rope and hitting Matthews with a huge splash, and even where he landed his hands, getting all the thumbtacks in his hands.
Yeah, he just proved to be like Jim Ross said, he's the hardest working man in wrestling.
Oh yeah, and he gave everything to that match, and you know, he's not a wrestler. You know, he doesn't really know what he's doing in the ring, but he gave it his all for that match.
He did. He just showed his loyalty to the company there. He really did. It was all. I think what I liked about this compared to the final deletion stuff is that it wasn't like when they were doing the final deletion of backstage stuff. It was a bunch of cutting in and out, and this was a little more fluid. And I think the only complaint I have about the whole thing is that Scott Steiner completely disappeared at the end, and they didn't really explain what happened to him.
Yeah, I can get that. I can understand that. But still, to me, I'm going to say it was my favourite match of the show. I just loved every part of it, and I loved it even more because it felt like it was a dig at the Hardys as well at the same time.
I think so, yeah. I think in more of a professional way, not getting on Twitter and going back and forth, but I think it was proving, hey, we're the ones who did this. We're the ones who made this special, and we're gonna prove it tonight.
Oh yeah, definitely. Now, the next match with Davey, Angelina Love, and Eddie and Alicia Edwards was a good match, but the problem I had was where it was placed. We've just come off a big match with Josh Matthews, Scott Steiner, Jeremy Borash, and Joseph Park. So I think the placement was a little bit weird. I feel they could have put the X Division match in that place, swap them two around.
I agree with you. I think that was a mistake in the flow of the show. The show was flowing very well up to that point, and placing it there wasn't the smartest thing, because we talked about this offline here a little bit when they introduced the thumbtacks into it. It wasn't nearly as special. Now the spot was different because they tried to pour it down Eddie's throat, but it wasn't near as special. It didn't get the crowd reaction because we just saw tacks 10 minutes before that. But this was the Full Metal Mayhem was my favorite match of the show, aside from the Borash one. I think because it was the one I was most emotionally invested into, and I wanted to see what the payoff was going to be. And some people said, well, the match was a little short. It was, but it was only a couple minutes shorter than some of the other matches. It wasn't anything insane. And I went back and watched it, and the action, much as that we talked about in the opener with Braxton Sutter and all them, the action was pretty nonstop. So it wasn't like, okay, it's an 8-minute match, but they spent half the time rolling around outside the ring, and it was nonstop action, and I think it worked, and the right team won.
Oh, definitely, absolutely, definitely. I had high expectations for this show, and so far it's filling them. But the spot you just said about where we saw the thumbtacks and then we saw Eddie got the kick at the same time was brilliant. All the spots in this were good. They had perfect spots in it. Like you just said, it's showing about placement, but still, it was a good, solid match. I'm hoping that's the end to this rivalry, and we're going seeing these two going doing different things. I will be honest, in time, I'm hoping the Wolves get back together because they were one of my favourite teams. But at the minute, I think they're going to probably give these more of a singles run and do different things with them at the moment.
Yeah, repeat that last part again. I'm sorry.
Well, I said I'm hoping they're going to do different things now. I loved them as the Wolves. I loved this rivalry, but they need to go and do something else now. It's been built up with them two for quite a long time.
Yeah, I read an interview with Eddie where he said they were going to go different directions now. So I think the great dynamic about this is that they can always come back to it. Not without overkilling it, but they can always come back to it. There's always going to be that hatred there. But I think they both need to move on and do something different right now.
Yeah, totally agree. But it was a good way to finish the rivalry. It was a perfect match in my eyes.
I loved it.
Coming after that was Sanjay Dutt taking on Loki in 2 out of 3 falls match. Now, I quite enjoyed this match. I quite enjoyed some of the spots. I wouldn't say it's my favourite X Division match. I think there's been better X Division matches. I don't know if it's because of their age. But I did enjoy it, but I didn't enjoy it at the same time.
With the time of the X Division match, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was bored out of my mind. I think it showed a level of storytelling that we haven't seen in the X Division in quite some time. So I don't think it was. I don't want people to misconstrue and say I'm saying it's a bad match, because it wasn't a bad match. It was a good match. I was just bored out of my freaking mind. I thought it was too slow. I didn't like their first match. And I think if I have to point out a positive, though, was that the pinfalls really mattered. They weren't rushed. They weren't, the moves that led to the pinfalls made sense. It wasn't, silly roll-ups or tapping out to single leg Boston Crab. That sometimes in these 2 out of 3 fall matches they tend to, make the falls ridiculous, and that was well done. I think they were trying to recreate some old school 80s wrestling with the way this match was laid out, because every time Sanjay started mounting up a comeback, Low-Ki just took him right back down. I just think for these particular guys and what people were expecting out of the X Division after everything, all the improvements have been made, I just think no one was expecting this, and I think it took the crowd out of the match. So, someone could say, oh, it was a great match. I don't agree. Well, look at the crowd. They were bored out of their mind in this match. And the crappy thing is the crowd never recovered until halfway through the main event.
Yeah, I noticed the crowd. But then again, I do think that's down to card placement. I think this should have been put lower down on the card. I think it would have done better being lower down. See, I kind of enjoyed some of the spots in it, especially at the end when Sanjay Dutt did that moonsault into a double stomp. I thought that was amazing. But
that was beautiful. That was gorgeous. He hit that dead on.
But I do hope now that they put more focus on new people and not veterans all the time. It's good to have veterans, but it's also good to have a mix.
There is, and there are so many young guys that we kind of wanted to see, but they haven't built them properly. Desmond Xavier, for instance.
Yeah.
I think that Sanjay currently took Andrew Everett's spot, and I think this match was probably initially penned to be Everett and Trevor Lee. I think that was the initial plan, and everything that happened with the knee to Sanjay's face and everything, and the India tour that changed the plans. But I'm not like a huge Sanjay fan. I'm glad that he's back. I think he's good for the division. I'm not really a huge fan, so I just emotionally didn't really care about the match.
Yeah, but like I said, like you've just said about Desmond Xavier, who is probably one of my favourites in the X Division. I'd love to see him go against Andrew Everett. I'd love to see, more of them guys. I just don't want to see Marshay Rocket in the X Division because I think he's a bit... I'd rather see him in something else. I think he's probably one that could probably go into the for the main title because he's got that caliber to him. But yeah, I think the X Division needs to sort of switch back to focusing on the younger guys.
I think so too. I think Low-Ki is really good for the division, and I think Sanjay's going to do more backstage work than anything. But again, it just wasn't what I think that people wanted.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that point. Another match that I sort of thought fell a little bit short was the Sienna and Rosemary match.
Yeah, and before I get into it, just to let you know, you did skip the EC3 and James Storm match. So we could...
My bad.
So, but my thoughts on this one, I thought I'm one of the few people I actually like Sienna better than Rosemary.
Yeah.
I do like Rosemary a lot, but I'm a Sienna fan, and so I was glad she won. I was hoping she would win. I was saying on a different podcast the other day that I think they had a very clear vision of how they wanted this match to go and how they wanted it to come across. I just don't think it worked. I think part of it was because the crowd was out of it from the X Division match, but I think they had it laid out on paper like, okay, there's going to be, Rosemary's going to choke on the mist, and there's going to be this submission, and I just don't think it came across on TV the way they had hoped it did. But I thought the finish was very creative. I don't know that the live crowd understood what happened.
Yeah.
But I think that was part of the reason the crowd was so dead on the tap out, because they weren't expecting it, because I don't think they knew that she was choking on the mist. Yeah. So I think that was hurtful. But creatively, I think it was great. And a move like that, a choke like that, should make someone tap out. I hate when there's a submission move that is an MMA move and the person's not tapping out. That's very silly. And I didn't understand. I don't think Laurel needed to be a part of this match. They really could have done without her.
I would totally agree on that. But like I said, I enjoyed it, but it fell a bit short. I wanted to see more. It felt a little bit rushed. I don't know if that's because of timing or if other things overlaid, but it did feel a bit short to me.
Yeah, it was a little short. I think that was a match where they said, okay, maybe the X Division match went on a little too long, and now we got to cut a couple minutes here.
Yeah.
So something tells me that there's a possibility the LVN inclusion was inaudible, was kind of done on the fly, or it was just so rushed that we didn't really understand what the point of her was. But the match just didn't click. I enjoy both the wrestlers so much, and Rosemary's entrance was great, and Sienna's attire was great. So I was still more excited than the X Division, just because I like these two competitors way better than I like Sanjay and Loki. So it's up to them to build Sienna as a strong, credible heel now, because being associated with KM and Laurel as comedy characters can hurt her going forward if they don't build her the right way, because they don't have another heel to build at this point.
Yeah.
Unless they decide they want Angelina Love to get a push at the top of the division, but they got to go forward and do the right thing here.
I totally agree with you. But like I said, it just felt a little bit short, which, but still, again, a solid match. Now, I want to go back to a match that I accidentally skipped, so my bad on that, was the EC3 versus James Storm. This match surprised me.
In what way?
I thought James Storm was going to get over. I thought the way they're pushing Storm and then brought him back to the old character, I thought James Storm was going over in this.
I didn't. I thought EC3 was winning this one for sure, because and this is the reason why, is because you had the two most heated rivalries in this whole pay-per-view were this and the Full Metal Mayhem one, and I knew Eddie was going to win, Eddie and Alicia. There's no way, because they've been getting their ass kicked so much on TV. I said there's no way Eddie loses this thing, and I didn't think that both James and Eddie were both going to get their comeuppance. I really thought EC3 was. I knew EC3 needed the win more than James Storm did. They both really needed this win, but EC3 hasn't been clicking as a heel the way that he had been in the past, and I think he needed this, because I think the loss would have hurt him a lot more than James Storm, and I think the way they did the finish helps James Storm. But I thought they were missing some key storytelling. I think that if James Storm, when he hit that pole, if they would have had him draw blood, or if they would have had EC3 beat him up for about a minute longer, like very viciously, savagely, I think it would have made the end make a lot more sense. But I thought EC3 as a heel really needed the win, and I have this. I hate the fantasy book, but I have this played out in my head, which I think there's a very strong possibility. I think he's going to feud with Patron. EC3 is. I think he's going to win the title. I think he's going to defend it at Bound for Glory versus James Storm. I think James Storm's going to win it at the pay-per-view. And then I actually think James Storm's going to be done with the company at the end of the year, and I think EC3 is going to beat him in a career match in December.
I'll be surprised if they get done with James Storm, but I can see it as well. He has been there a long time, and it's more of the issue of what can we do with him.
Yeah. James Storm has done everything he could possibly do, and if you listen to his interviews, he doesn't give you those warm fuzzies that he's going to stay on with Impact or GFW. I think he's good as gone, but I never have a problem when someone goes to WWE if they pay their dues with the company.
Yeah.
So if you compare him to Mike Bennett, who Mike Bennett didn't accomplish anything in the company, and I don't respect him for that.
But even when he left, when their contract ran out, they still stayed with Impact and did quite a few tapings and just got paid for the appearance. So I kind of respect him for that.
I respect him for that, but when I say I don't respect him, I can't relate to the type of human being who. I mean, good for him. He took the big opportunity, and he shouldn't be penalized for that. But I can't relate to the human being who moves on from task A to task B and didn't complete task A.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't do anything. He didn't win any titles. You know, the X Division one was more of a storyline thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he didn't do anything, and I just can't relate to someone who says, okay, year one down, I didn't win any titles, I didn't win any major feuds. Okay, what's next? So that I have a problem with that, but I mean, who am I? But at the same time, James Storm, he's done everything he can do. At this point, I think he deserves to move on and show a bigger audience what he's capable of. But so I just think EC3 is going to be with the company longer. I think he needed this win, and especially because I think he's the next world champion. So I just think he needed this. I thought the match could have been a bit more brutal. When I say that, I just felt like there should have been some blood, because this match could have gone off like the Rockstar Spud hair versus hair match, which people still talk about. This match could have done that.
Yeah.
Had that little extra.
Oh yeah. One thing I do like is EC3's facial expressions as well are just brilliant. You know, when we see the shrug of the shoulders, and you know, he plays that character so well, and I love the way they've done this as well. They made it look like James Storm suffered a serious concussion.
Yeah, no, I think that was a really smart way of ending the match. There, you know, I think that's how you make James Storm lose and not make him look bad.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So it was just missing a little something for me, but you know, I'm such a big fan of both those guys. And like you mentioned, James EC3's facial expressions. He was great when he said "eat my ass" and to James Storm and everything. He did good. He really did. When when James Storm handcuffed him into the ropes, and his reaction. I saw some pictures from the tapings coming up, and I'm not trying to give a spoiler here, but I saw him in the suit again, and I had been saying he needs to be back in the suit. He did as a babyface, but for whatever reason, ever since his heel turn, we've never seen that Ethan Carter to the third rocking the suit to the ring, you know. And he's so much bigger now and looks like a body guy that heels have to cover themselves up more, you know. Maybe not in the ring, but the attire is part of the heel gimmick. You know, he's still wearing very bright colors, which is usually indicative of a baby face. So, you know, maybe start putting on some black trunks, dark gray ones, and, you know, put the suit back on. Get the douchebag haircut going again. Yeah. You know, like there's little things he needs to do.
Oh, yeah, I totally agree with that. And then that brings us on to the main event, Walking Armageddon. I hate the name. I preferred the Destroyer. I think it's pretty bad that Impact didn't copyright that. But, you know, we had the Walking Armageddon Lashley with King Mo taking on Alberto El Patron with Dos Caros. Is that right? Have I said that right?
Yes.
In the unification match of the GFW title and the Impact title. I was impressed with this match. You know, we've really seen a different side of Alberto, and it kind of shows that he's enjoying being at Impact.
Yeah, when I used to watch WWE, I always used to DVR it, and I hated him, but not hated him like, oh, he's a good heel. Like I couldn't stand him, and I fast forwarded all his matches. Every it didn't matter who the opponent was. I just couldn't stand him. But he's come to the company, and now I love him. And I'm not trying to be contradictory, because I know we talk about all the time about how guys like Eric Young or Bobby Roode, where they're part of TNA, so they're jobbers, and all of a sudden people love them in WWE. I'm not trying to do the reverse there. I just think he's shown a level of passion and wanting to be there that has impressed the fans, and that's what we want as fans of the company. We want people who want to be there, not people, like with Drew Galloway. I felt like he wanted to be there, but he was also there as a pit stop.
Yeah.
And the Hardys were there as a pit stop, and we don't want that crap anymore. We want people to say, I want to be here, and I want to do something with this company. I want to help this company grow. So I think he's just done great work. All his matches have been tremendous, with the exception of the match he had with Adonis. That was awful. But other than that, he's done good. I've seen some people say this was their least favorite match of the show, and they have no chemistry. Like, I thought they had chemistry. I thought they delivered. I thought they worked extremely hard. It was just the finish of the match, that gimmick double stomp where they're hanging from the. I mean, that I just can't see how that can beat anybody, let alone Lashley. I thought he was going to kick out.
Oh, definitely. But everything, the way it was played, the back and forth, and the interference as well at ringside, played well.
Yeah, I thought it was a little too much at times, because there were just so many people. I don't think the entrance came off as majestic as it was supposed to look like with Lashley coming with. I think they wanted it to look like a MMA entrance, but I don't think it came off like that.
Yeah.
But I like that they added the guys to the match to so it just wasn't a one-on-one match. They had to do something to make it different than the last time they wrestled. So it was cool. I liked the match. I mean, a lot of people didn't. I liked it.
Yeah, so I did. To me, it was a solid performance from both sides. It'd be interesting to see what they do with Lashley after this. I still predict that Josh Matthews is going to end up being Lashley's manager after this and sort of rebuild Lashley.
I hope so. That would be fun.
But overall, Slammiversary for me is definitely a A-. It would have been an A+ if placement was better.
Yeah, the placement and a couple of the botches, but that's to be expected. I mean, you can never gonna be perfect in the ring, but I really think if that X Division match was placed better or got a different kind of match, then I think it would have changed the dynamic of the knockouts match quite a bit, and the main event a little bit too. So I think that was the killer. But yeah, it's definitely an A-.
One thing that was interesting was Paige being at ringside, but found a way that she could be at ringside without getting in trouble with wearing the mask.
I heard that ended up being his sister.
No, it was Paige.
Okay.
They zoomed in onto the phone and it said the name.
Yeah, but she had tattoos that I have not seen those tattoos on Paige. Which we haven't really seen Paige on TV in a long time, but
they could be new tattoos. It could be, but to me, it looked like Paige.
Yeah, I mean, she was pale, and Alberto's sister would have been Mexican and probably not that light-skinned.
One thing that I'm happy after Slammiversary is we've got the Super X Cup back.
That is going to be great. I'm very jazzed for that. I hope that it's taken very serious, because sometimes they have great ideas for gimmick matches and tournaments, and they're very underwhelming a lot of the time. And I hope that there's a big focus on this being important, not just some quick matches.
Yeah.
Idris Abraham is in this, and he can go and a couple times he's been on TV, he's been kind of delivered as a jobber.
Yeah.
So I just don't want him to go out there and be part of a 3-minute match. I hope this is taken serious, especially with the G1 stuff that went on, the Cruiserweight Classic. They have to have their staple in this cruiserweight, lightweight division, and this can be it. This can be what people are excited for every year, but they just got to do it right.
Oh yeah, totally agree with you. I'm excited to see what happens at these tapings. I don't know if I'm truly sold on going to the GFW name. I think that's down to me being more of a hardcore TNA fan.
Yeah, it's still hard to wrap your head around and hard to say. I think even just not stopping TNA and getting into Impact instead was getting pretty difficult. At first it was we kept saying TNA, and then we have to know it's Impact. And now I think everyone transitioned to saying Impact very easily, but the transition to GFW is not going to be as easy.
No.
I'm excited. I'm really excited for the one night onlys where they show the old GFW stuff that was never televised. I think that's gonna be a lot of fun. But I'm just trying to trust Jeff Jarrett. There's meetings and stuff behind the scenes that lead to these decisions, and we're not experts. So we like to think we have a very good opinion on things, but I'm trying to trust what they're doing backstage and the partnerships that they are trying to work towards. And I understand what he called it Global Force Wrestling to begin with, because he wanted it something where that was the niche, was that there was going to be a lot of talent from other countries coming and going, and being taken serious, not just coming in to job or to go home. But he really wanted working relationships with countries that didn't necessarily have representation in the United States. So I think he has a vision for the company that's going to be different. But unfortunately, that name has a lot of it probably is more negative than TNA is a lot of eyes.
I can understand the name change, with TNA being associated with casual viewers like tits and arse and stuff like that. With the GFW name, it is more organic. It is more of a better name, so I can understand it, but doesn't mean I completely like it yet.
It's going to take some changes, and we're going to have to sit through a few tapings and a few episodes of Impact to really start getting used to it. And I guess the new titles are coming out on August 17th at the Destination X show, because that's going to be a live show here in the U.S.
Yeah.
So that's when they're going to introduce the new titles.
Because they've the titles were there, but there was something wrong with the titles. There was the wrong logo or something, I heard.
Yeah, I heard there was some stuff that went on. I don't know what. I would have liked to get them at the pay-per-view, though.
Yeah, because they were meant to come back. I think it was on this tapings, but there was something wrong with them, so they've had to be sent back to be redone. So I think that was one of the issues.
Okay, well, yeah, maybe that was the case. But WWE does it all the time. They did it with the world titles for months, where people are carrying around two championships.
Yeah.
So, I hope people don't criticize them too much for doing the same thing for a month until next month. So.
Yeah, but
whatever.
I'm also excited that we're going to have Destination X coming back. So it looks like they're going in the right direction and slowly bringing more pay-per-views back.
It was a highly rated show last year, and that was where Moose had his debut. It just wasn't a good X Division show. It was, they had no confidence in the X Division at the time, so it was, we got the same standard bullshit mixed in with heavyweights going out there doing their own thing. I hope this time they're like, okay, this is the X Division freaking show. That's what you're going to get. You're not going to see EC3 come out. You're not going to see Lashley come out. You're not going to see, Eli Drake and Adon. Let's get the actual X Division guys to shine, because right now WWE is dropping the ball with the cruiserweights.
Oh, yeah,
so,
definitely.
now it's time to take that spot back. Because before, after that Cruiserweight Classic, there was no way the company was signing any cruiserweights, because they were like, I could go to WWE and be part of this. Why would I want to come and be part of this bullshit X division with 3-minute matches? Now all of a sudden the tide is changing, where they're dropping the ball and the focus is on the X division, and now they have an opportunity to really do it right.
Oh yeah, definitely. One thing that I am excited about from now on, July the 5th, is going to be Impact Wrestling Day in Florida.
That is exciting. And I was reading the partnership between Universal Studios and Orlando and everything in the company is stronger than ever right now. And then this the Impact Day played a big role in that, and the paying homage to the victims out there. And there's some really good partnerships going on that aren't necessarily wrestling related, but I mean, how many partnerships at WWE have nothing to do with wrestling? I mean, if you want to grow, you have to you got to hit on a lot of different spots. Not just in the ring. You got to build those relationships outside of the wrestling ring that might not translate to extra fans necessarily, but there's other doors that will open.
Oh yeah, definitely. And also NXT hasn't got that, so that's another thing we've got.
Yeah.
The only thing for me, I would love there to be a hardcore division in GFW. It's one thing that I think no other company's doing, and I think that will attract more fans to it.
Yeah, that could happen if they took it serious. I mean, if it was really hardcore wrestling.
Yeah.
They might have to bring in guys who specialize in those kind of matches, as opposed to trying to do it with, like if you remember when they brought back ECW a long time ago, they tried to do it with the current stars from the regular Raw and SmackDown, and it was the same exact show, but with less, people didn't care about it, but it was pretty much the same show because they didn't go back to what worked. So if they want to do something like that, they got to bring in the right people and not use the current roster for it.
Well, they can use Bram, Abyss, but they could also associate with a company that can help them out on that, so they don't have to sign loads of guys.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Is there anything more you'd like to add?
I don't think so. This was just a great pay-per-view. For us here in the States, Impact will be on tonight, and I'm excited for the fallout. I'm a little worried because the weather in Orlando is very bad right now. There's been some rumblings that the crowd sizes were small because of the weather. So just to paint a picture for people, because I've been in the Impact Zone, the Impact Zone the placement of the Impact Zone is very inconvenient. It's the dirt sheets and such like to make fun of it and say, oh, well, the park goers can just go in there. The Impact Zone's nowhere near the attractions. It's not. It's almost its own part of the park. It has nothing. It's in the corner, so you're not going to just see people walk past them. Oh, let's see what this is. It's not like that. It's actually very hidden in the back. But at the same time, it's when you park, it's a fairly long walk to get to the Impact Zone. It's a good. Between parking and getting the Impact Zone, it's like a 20-minute walk.
Oh, wow.
So it's very inconvenient, and I think that has to do with the crowd sizes sometimes, where it's kind of a hike. It's some extra effort if you want to go to the Impact Zone. So when the weather is bad, it's just another reason for people to say, I'm not doing that today.
Wow, but I didn't know that.
Yeah, the dirt sheets paint a completely different picture, but it's nowhere near the attractions.
Yeah.
It's not even in a part where it's like a little part where a bunch of restaurants are. Say you just want to go to a restaurant and you don't want to buy admission to the park, like you just go through security and then go eat at the restaurants. that's pretty much it. There's no like rides and stuff.
But like one thing you said is, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next. We get it on the Friday, but I'm looking forward to it. And you know, I've got that excitement back with Impact Wrestling, and I've got that buzz again, and I love it. Absolutely love it.
Yep, they just got to keep doing what they're doing.
Precisely. I want to say a big thank you for coming on this show. I really appreciate you giving your free time to join us.
Thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Don't forget to go and check out King of the Mountain podcast on YouTube. And what's your Twitter handle?
BQ_KOTM.
And I want to say a big thanks for everybody watching. We'll be back on Sunday with Balls of Fire predictions. So big thanks for watching.